The following content contains material that may be upsetting to anyone who identifies as a teddy bear or supports a team that identifies as Rangers Football Club. Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I am delighted to be joined by a rather rough Kevin Graham and a resplendent Acsom Rabani. Guys, what a weekend.
It has been a great weekend, aye. I must admit, though, any adult referring to themselves as a teddy bear needs to have a look at themselves. I'm sorry, but that's just wrong on so many levels. I've had worse Saturdays and Sundays, definitely.
What about yourself, Acsom? You loving your Happy Monday, mate?
I'm indeed. As a famous quote once from Stevie Gerrard, do I look happy? You know, it's been fabulous on. So looking forward to this hour. Plenty to talk about, but yeah, I think you can tell from all of our faces we're in pretty joint mood.
Right, let's start off with this then. The meltdown is indeed glorious. Yes, let's just absolutely sip it up. Kev, Graham, what's been your favourite part of the most recent meltdown over the last 24 hours?
In the last 24 hours, my favourite part has been them singing Sack the Board. That is hilarious, considering, I mean, they're always in our shadow, we done that first.
Oh.
Where's Jim Orr? Where's Jim Orr? We created the Sack the Board chants first, I think the meltdown has been, but it's a general realisation now that at this current state in time, we can treat that like a normal SPL game. And if we turn up, then that's on the way that we're not going to win. Somebody says to me yesterday on the way out the stadium, there was no different to that game than playing a Motherwell or a Hearts at Celtic Park. You turned up expecting to win, and you knew full well that the only reason that you weren't going to win if something horrific went wrong, or he's had a horrible, horrible game. And I must admit, in the first 12 minutes, it looked like, oof, we have turned up here. But as soon as we got that debatable offside goal chopped off, which is still really, really debatable, after that point, it was really, really plain sailing. It was so plain sailing, it was quite frightening at times. And long may it continue.
Long may it continue. We will talk it. Listen, I think that it's only right that you spend a bit of time to talk about the poor decisions, particularly when you've won and you've won well. Acsom, I don't want to start with that, but I do think we'll cover it. Some great comments coming in from the commenters. I hope you've all had a tremendous weekend. A very happy Monday, all, says Johnny Ryan. Alan Robertson, long-time viewer, says afternoon all. And we've got Paul Shiak saying hail, hail as well. Let us know where you're watching Acsom from. Let us know about your weekend as well. Mantis Toboggan, Beaton played advantage when there was no real advantage to be had. That's when we were breaking up the left wing, I remember. Then the one time there was clear advantage, he drags us back for a foul. That's the one. Yeah, we'll talk about all of that. Let's start off with some of the brilliant performances, though, Acsom, because there were quite a few. And I'm going to start off, right, unfashionably probably, with Liam Scales, because Liam Scales is up there. He's in the top two in terms of the Celtic players who get stick. I've seen both on here, by the fans, in the ground and all that stuff. I thought he was exceptional yesterday.
He was indeed. Can I just start off by saying, honestly, I've barely slept. I don't know about you guys, but see, after days like yesterday, I can't get enough. I was in a different seat yesterday as well, actually, so my view of the game wasn't quite what it usually is. It was really low down behind the goals. I managed to get a last minute ticket so I could let my dad go. So he was in our normal seats, but just the whole day, the whole occasion, everything afterwards, the meltdown. So I came back home and watched the game back and properly kind of analysed it. And then all the kind of content afterwards, I honestly can't get enough of it. So, yeah, I've not had much sleep. But in amongst that, yeah, I did manage to catch the game again. And you're right, Liam Scales, he's someone that I've been not critical of. And I've just always kind of said that I feel like it's an area where we can improve on and have better options potentially. But what doing that and what signing players does is the likes of Liam Scales and Greg Taylor yesterday, two of the kind of guys who came under a bit of scrutiny and, areas of the pitch where we've said we could maybe look to strengthen. Well, look at the performance of the two of them. I thought they were brilliant, and that's what having competition and that's what bringing in players that are going to bring up the whole level of the squad is going to do. Because I thought you're right. Other than the opening 10 minutes in which the whole team was a wee bit off it, we were a wee bit passive and slack in our possession, Liam Scales included. But after that, I thought he was brilliant and similar to some of the big performances he put in last season in these games. I think you look back to the Ibrox game this time last year was one of his strongest performances. And you could argue yesterday as well was brilliant, and the manager kind of singled him out afterwards as well. It just shows you it's just when you've got a squad there and you've got competition for places, naturally that's going to bring out the best in players. And if Liam Scales continues to play like that, then the position's his. That's what that does now. But yeah, you're right. I thought he deserves a special mention among so many, and I'm sure we'll go over all of them. But a good one to start with.
Yeah, Scales, he gets some stick, Kev. I mean, I used the word last week, unfashionable, and it is something that we fall into that kind of habit, Kevin, of looking at a player and thinking because it's not Leo Scalacci from Italy, the ginger Italian, he seems to get a bit of stick. But by the way, good shout by Acsom. What about Taylor for the first goal? It could have been the second, but the first goal, winning the ball brilliantly. I felt there was only going to be one winner, and then in feeding Kyogo as well. So yeah, brilliant praise for the two guys that get stick week in, week out, Kev.
Aye, and as Acsom rightly points out, there's a wee bit of challenge to both their places now, eh?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Scales is fine when he does the simple thing, and yesterday he was doing the simple thing, which was making a muppet out of Dessers, because that's what you want to do. That big guy who's took it on his mantle that he's going to be the leader of the Rangers, and he's not got the ability to actually do it, which is quite funny. But Scales, I says that on the way out the stadium, I says Scales was absolutely superb, done everything well, he done everything that was asked for him. As you say, I didn't really pick it up at the time. It was Greg Taylor that broke up the goal for the second goal. What about AJ on the other side as well? He was rampant. He was a machine going up and down there all game.
See the assist for Ameda. Let's just break away for a second. See that assist? How he had to wrap his boot around that ball at pace. No matter what angle you look at it, it's a sensational pass by Johnson, who was overlapping. And what a move that was, by the way, but overlapping all day. Proper traditional Celtic fullback. He was brilliant.
Definitely. He's a future captain. I'm going to say that now, because he's got that attitude and engine that we really, really like. In the midfield, I mean, Paulo Bernardo. I mean, how much ground did he actually cover? And he proved that he's a completely different footballer from Matt O'Reilly, but he brings something to that team. He brings something different to that team. He maybe hasn't got the tricks and the flicks and the creativeness of Matt O'Reilly, but what he hasn't got, he certainly makes up with in work rate, and he certainly done that yesterday. And I was quite disappointed that he was taken off, but obviously that's match fitness. He was probably running on empty at that point. And you've just got Kyogo. I mean, that chase back in the second half when you're 2-0 up and he actually bolts there after the boy, man. You just want to pick him up and put him in your pocket, eh? And just carry him about with you. He's just a wee bundle of joy, man.
What about his interview? His interview after the game. And I'm not being funny, right? Acsom, you might be able to tell us about your nephew's take on this, right? But when I'm talking to my wee guy, or whenever we mates who've got kids who support Celtic, I always ask, who's your favourite player? And every one of them says Kyogo. There's something about wee Kyogo that bairns love. It's like he's a powder puff cartoon character or something. You know what I mean? He's unbelievable. The likability factor is sensational with that wee guy. Is it the same with your family, Acsom?
Oh, definitely. It's funny you said that because my nephew Issa, he's massive Celtic fan. He's been going to all the games with me and my dad now for the last 2-3 years. Doesn't miss a game, and obviously right at the start of the kind of Kyogo coming to the club, and he said last week when Matt O'Reilly left and obviously Jota left last year, they hurt. But when the Kyogo link was there for Man City, that's what really got to him. He was like, oh, that one would be a sickener. So that's his modern day Henrik, the way Henrik was for me. So yeah, Kyogo, and he is. I watched that interview yesterday, and you can't help but smile. It was just brilliant. But I was going to say
Taylor was cracking up as well.
Yeah, that's right. But do you know what it reminded me of that goal? You remember he scored against Ferencvaros, a kind of similar side foot pass. It's just the speed of thought, because at times you're like, maybe he's going to go a wee bit more in than pass it, but he's just such a clever player. But another point that Kev mentioned was Alistair Johnston as a future captain. I can see that. I don't know if you've seen, there's a clip of him as they're coming out of the huddle, and he's just shown that kind of raw passion, and he's just like screaming into the air, and it just seems like a guy who's just fallen totally in love with Celtic and gets the passion, gets how much this rivalry means and how much it means to play for Celtic. I seen at the end he was getting Arne Engels involved in the celebration, so he's taken on that kind of leadership role within the camp, and it's just great to see. Like I say, I kind of milk every single bit of the celebrations and watching clips. I love all that kind of stuff.
No, quite right. I noticed you were sending a message in the group chat last night just saying that you were watching reruns and everything else you could possibly consume. Joe Hamilton, our big Italian defender from Ireland, deserves loads of praise for his performance yesterday. And here he is. It's Leo Scalacci. Look at him. He's looking fine, isn't he? Sporting our 5th away kit or whatever it might be. But Cameron's in a moon boot. I know. It could be serious, Kev. That is a bit of a concern. It was a concern before the game. Brendan argued it away, saying he had a rest day, but he is spotted clutching his foot at the end of the game on the unique Celtic TV angle, and then he walks to the bus in a moon boot. Again, might just be precautionary. In terms of the timing of it, couldn't happen at a better time. We're going into an international break, but there just seems to be a reoccurrence with Carter Vickers, doesn't there?
I think this is more an impact injury. I think you saw, I can't remember who he tackled at the edge of the box, but it was after that. He seemed to have lost his boot, and he was trying to get the boot back on, and he was cringing as he was putting the boot back on. So I don't think it's linked to anything. I think it's more an impact injury. And as you say, we've got now 2 weeks off, which could maybe, if it is a small break, they can maybe have a look at it. And the moon boot was...
I was going to say, I think it was confirmed this morning. I seen somewhere on another podcast who must have seen it from somewhere as well, that it's been confirmed that he should be back for Hearts game. It's nothing too serious, so that's good news. I kind of, as much as I didn't get a great vantage point of the game, I was quite close to where that incident took place. And it was like an impact injury, and you could just see he was hobbling about, but it was about 10 minutes to go at that point, so he kind of just soldiered on. But as you said, it's perfect timing. We've got 2 weeks now for him to recover, and the fact that we've got other options as well just means you're not as panicky. But still, CCV is still the main man.
This is the thing. There's a few comments coming in here in relation to the transfer window and how it's actually turned out. And even if it was an injury and it was a layoff, you're looking at the fact that we've strengthened to the tune of £6 million. With his international teammate coming in the door as well. And it'll be a moment like this in the season that Trusty will probably get an opportunity, because Scales has started off so well. And you wonder, Acsom, about levels. There's certain players who will hit a ceiling. And I only get an understanding of this by talking to people in the game, whereby no matter how hard an individual works, there is a ceiling to their ability. And I've got to say, I didn't think Liam Scales had this level of progression in him under Brendan Rodgers. It's been incredible. But Carter Vickers, a lot of people in the comments this season have been saying, he's not been at his best. I thought Carter Vickers gave his typical performance against Rangers yesterday, because he's solid against them. He steps up against Rangers. There was the moment Dessers thought he could out-muscle him. It was just like, wow. I mean, let's make that a meme and a gif, and let's keep watching it, because I think he is still the rock. He is that guy. He's the bedrock of the defence. And I think that to have somebody beside him constantly, rather than the chopping and the changing that we've seen, and also have a goalie like Schmeichel at the back. Yeah. Because, listen, he wasn't that busy, unless you listen to Clement. He wasn't that busy, Schmeichel. But when he was called into action, Acsom, brilliant, solid.
Oh, the save for McCausland's one, that was a brilliant save. And you're right, that's the test of a really good goalkeeper, that he's barely had a shot to save in his 4 games domestically for us. But when he's been called upon, and that was the first time probably all game yesterday where it was a difficult save, because the other ones were pass backs from Dessers. But the one from McCausland, brilliant. And you just feel so confident, even on the ball. I think he maybe gave it away once in the last 10 minutes or so when he kicked it out for a throw-in, but just so comfortable on the ball. And it must make such a difference for for the back line and the likes of Carter Vickers, you're right. He kind of goes under the radar because he doesn't need to do any. He doesn't need to have an absolutely brilliant game, but he's just so dependable. You can rely on him to be consistent every single week. And as you say, how many different strikers has he now came up against that Rangers have tried to throw at him, and he just deals with them all, in his pocket. I thought he was brilliant, and I think he makes whoever he partners a better player as well. I think when Scales is with him, he makes him a better player, and hopefully that will be the same if and when they're mixing between the three defenders. So yeah, for me, he's still the best centre back in Scotland by quite a mile, and still the main centre back for me.
Yeah, without a doubt. Ernest, sorry, on you go, Kev.
He's up there with me for now, over the 3 seasons that we've had them, as one of the best centre halves I've seen at Celtic Park.
Who would you have him up there with, Kev? What kind of players would be? Well, Van Dijk, it's almost a given, isn't it? He would be in there.
Elliott, Van Dijk, Elliott. I thought Denier was an absolute fantastic player for us as well. Modern day, if you talk about the modern day centre halves, he's right up there. I mean, obviously you go back to the 80s and you've got the guys like Feed the Bear and that in there who are completely different type of centre halves. But I think the modern day centre half starts with Paul Elliott, and my judge of a centre half has got a Paul Elliott bar. And he's there. He is there with consistency.
It's the longevity as well. Van Dijk and Denier were great for Celtic, but almost got better when they went elsewhere. Obviously, Van Dijk, the levels he's reached is incredible. But at Celtic, he strolled it. But I just think the consistency that Carter Vickers has showed for 3 seasons, as Kev says now, and just consistently makes whoever he's playing with a really good defender as well. So I agree. I'm kind of looking back to maybe some of the defenders in Martin O'Neill's time. Mialbi, we spoke about him, but I would say Carter Vickers is better than him. Bobo Baldi had his strengths, but we've seen his weaknesses as well. So yeah, I think it's safe to say in my lifetime anyway, I didn't see Elliott, but I would say Carter Vickers is the best centre back I've seen.
It's a great conversation.
There's a couple of folk in the comments mentioning Mark Reaper. Reaper was fantastic for us for injury.
I know.
I think that's the reason why he's never included in these sort of conversations, because of the injury. But Reaper was superb for us when we got that season out of me.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, Stubbsy was a cracking defender at the time that he played for the club. I think if Martin O'Neill's 3, if you're looking at Valgaeren, Baldi and Mialbi had the passing ability that the other two. I mean, Valgaeren was no slouch, but Bobo Baldi couldn't pass a ball. He was just a big defender, But Mialbi, obviously being switched from midfield, had that about him. He's in my thoughts. I think Elliott's always been up there. Maybe a wee bit of green tinted haze and nostalgia, but he was unbelievable tackler and goal scoring defender as well. Kev, loved a goal against Rangers. But yeah, listen, honourable mention, right? No boos and hisses at the back for Christopher Ayer. I loved Ayer. I remember Kevin and I done a very early episode of Acsom, and I says to you, Kev, he's got to be a £10 million player, remember? And he was eventually. But I did love Ayer. I thought he was a cracking player. He wouldn't be in my top team, obviously, but Carter Vickers is. He's in it. He's in it now. Ernest, mostly Scales weighed in big time. All the players whose positions were strengthened responded, and that takes us into the transfer window and the importance not of only of strengthening the starting 11, but getting challengers in the door. Because I do think Johnson's had a challenger. In his time at Celtic, with Tony Ralston being at the club. He's a dependable backup, Tony. Greg Taylor's not really had that, to be honest. Some guys have come and gone. And then at the back, Carter Vickers hasn't really had it. And Scales has been the guy that stepped up as well. So it's great to have that competition. Donny Tiny Hands, welcome to the show. You're on the YouTube. We had a net spend of 0. They had a net spend of several million. Yeah, you're right. And what have they got to show for it? Because I'm a wee bit like Kevin in that, the Rangers game's always going to get you up for it. But in terms of the quality of the opposition I've seen, they're no great. And I asked earlier, what was your favourite part of the meltdown? Mine was Chris Boyd. They should give him a break. The contribution, let's be honest, right? Let's be brutally honest. The contribution that he provided yesterday, as funny as it was akin to some guy sitting in a bar somewhere and a boozer with his mates. It was dreadful. There was no balance. It was incoherent. It was basically a bitter fan spouting on the TV. But in terms of that, and in terms of where they are, there seems to be a penny dropping amongst a few of the fans.
Oh,
Most
aye.
of them will pretend, no, business as usual. The penny is
No.
dropping with a few of them, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. I think you're right. It was just like a fan just ranting and raving. It was a funny bit where Chris Sutton goes, because he asked him a question, boy, and he goes, I don't know. And Sutton's like, well, are you not kind of paid to give your opinion on these things? But he has no answer. He was just calling it embarrassing. But he's right. They are embarrassing. It was an embarrassment. And look, we loved that. We love all the meltdown. Of course we are. You know, you've seen the I don't know if you've seen the clip of the fans outside Ibrox. There's one before the bus leaves, and they're all giving it, right, let's go, let's get into them, giving them the support, and then there's the clip at the end, giving them abuse. So you're right. I think there is a realization. I think I seen something from McCoist earlier on. I seen a clip of him saying that, you know what, that season where they won the league, maybe it was because there were no fans, because these players can't seem to handle playing in front of fans and handling the pressure and the mentality. And I think that's where the massive difference is. Obviously, the quality on the pitch, as everyone's kind of said and alluded to, none of their players would get near our team. You know, you've seen that yesterday. And you know what was interesting for me, seeing that first 10 minutes where you could argue they were the better team. Obviously, they started on the front foot. At no point did I really feel worried, though. It wasn't like I thought, you know what, this will carry on. I just felt as soon as we wanted to click into gear and up things, I felt we could. And all it took was one defence splitting pass from McGregor, and they went back into their shell, even though the goal was disallowed. But from then on in, they just realised, right, okay, we've had our spit, and we ran right over the top of them from there on in. And I just think, you know, there is a massive gulf there, and I actually enjoy seeing their manager claim it isn't, because the longer he's deluded into thinking that, you know what, oh, we've got the same amount of shots on target as them, and we've got the same amount of possession as them, none of their fans are buying it anymore. But if that's what he's telling his players, then, you know, long may it carry on, because the gap is just going to get bigger. Because I can see us going up a few levels still, and I just think their meltdown will continue.
You know, you're right. You're absolutely spot on with that. And some of the comments coming in are brilliant, and I'm going to get as many as I possibly can to get involved. Monty actually gives us his greatest 11. Foster, McGrain, Elliott, Van Dijk. Dearie me, what a side it is already. Tierney, De Canio, McStay, Collins, Jota, Larsson and Cadeti. That's some team. Let us know your greatest 11 just while we're at it, because we're in a good mood today, us Celtic fans. But I want to talk about Bernardo. We've mentioned him, and obviously when Matt O'Reilly left, it was obvious that he was going to step in as, you know, a starter. But we know he's not the same type of player, Kev, even though he was telling us, I'm an attacking player at the press conference, I'm going to score goals. And yesterday, you know, he did have the old twinkle toes and all that kind of stuff. His ball retention was brilliant in and around the box. There was a couple of times I was screaming for him to shoot maybe a wee bit earlier. Man of the match for me, Kev. I know he was only on the park 60 minutes. Man of the match. And again, I think players are stepping up, because you've got two guys on the bench that are just in the door, ready to prove themselves, in Engels and McKeown. So, I mean, big shout out for Bernardo. And what a bit of business, £3.5 million.
I know, it is a great bit of business. Just to go back to pundits, it's nice to see Graham Souness still saying what I sing about him in the Celtic Cross Collective song about Blackburn, available on all good streaming sites. If you just search the Celtic Cross Collective and search Blackburn, you'll hear what I think of Graham Souness and the rest of the band.
Do you need to go on a queue like of 250,000 people to get this tune? No.
And I'll tell you one thing: when the collective did a couple of dates, we're not using Ticketmaster, so don't worry, you'll be able to get a ticket. No problem whatsoever. Bernardo was always a different type of player, but I always thought that when he came in that he was O'Reilly's replacement, because we can't replace like for like.
No.
And the team was going to morph the way that they actually played, change the way that they played when Bernardo comes in. And you notice slight differences yesterday, mainly because Callum McGregor then became the more attacking force than what McGregor would have been with O'Reilly there, because Bernardo was just everywhere, the energy and that. But then Bernardo knows himself now that he's in that team. And as you say, we brought in a guy for club record. We bring in another guy from McCowan for Dundee, who is living the dream, and that he'll go on adrenaline probably for now to when he's the end of Celtic days, eh? And so Bernardo knows that he's got to step up, and he stood up in the big games before.
Yeah,
he doesn't shy away from them. He's like, no, this is what I was put on this earth today, is to play in these games. Rodgers went with him last season in the Champions League, and it was a bit of a head scratcher at the time. We were going, why he doesn't get games in the league? So why is he coming out in the Champions League?
Turnbull was sitting on the bench. Remember?
Aye, because he trusts Bernardo to step up in these big games, and once again he didn't let us down yesterday in another the biggest game in Scotland. What I would actually say is, maybe this didn't say much about the Scottish League, but Rangers were the best team that we've faced this season, and I didn't ken what else that says about the rest of the Scottish League.
Yeah, because I don't even think we were at our best yesterday. It was a great performance. It was a great win, but I don't think we were at our best. Kieran Deeney picks up on what you were saying, Kev. Anyone heard Souness on TalkSport still reckons there's not much between the teams. He's demented. Listen, I would go with what Acsom says here. I am happy for them to truly believe that that's the case, because it's a false sense of security and it's a bravado. And if they're going to have it, fine. Because I think anybody that even has a passing interest in football could watch that yesterday, have a cursory glance at the squads of the two teams and realise that is nonsense. Celtic are way ahead. And, I remember the term being coined, I'm sure it was by Phil McGolliman, with the Espanyolification of Rangers. And people didn't want to accept that. They really didn't. And all I can do is I can call back on that era. This is my Celtic Da moment, right? Remember the 90s. That era where you're born into being taken to the games and you're no winning. And you're no winning for the best part of a decade. And it almost normalises that second, third, fourth, and sometimes even fifth best in Scotland. Remember that year we finished fifth under Billy McNeill, Kev? I mean, Celtic were rotten, but there's a whole generation of Celtic fans at that time going to the games, where this was normal because we hadn't really seen a winning team. I never seen a Celtic progressing beyond the second round of any European competition until Martin O'Neill came to the football club. Yeah. So there's a whole generation now of Rangers fans who are getting dragged, probably kicking and screaming, to the games at the moment, who don't know a successful Rangers side. And that's exactly where we are. And I think that what we need to do as a football club, and this was maybe the frustration during the transfer window, is to ensure that we are the best we can possibly be. So when you've got 20-odd million pounds sitting on the bench yesterday, I think that shows that we are turning in terms of the mentality. Maybe not off the board, and again, maybe they're kicking and screaming because Rodgers seems to have been pushing them for that. But I think we need to concentrate on Celtic Football Club. European Champions League was drawn last week. We'll have a wee chat about that. The ticket prices are out. And just concentrate on ourselves. We're not half of anything. That's my mantra moving forward, Acsom.
Yeah, you're right. It's 12 out of the last 13 seasons we've won the league. In the 1 year they weren't even able to get into the grounds. So you're right. It is a whole generation of supporters who just haven't seen their team compete or do well. And I'd love to say I feel sorry for them, but I don't. It's you revel in it all. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying all the meltdowns. But you're right. You don't want the club to get complacent. You don't want the club to now just think again, look at the gap. It's fine, and just be happy with that. It's time to fully bury them and fully widen that gap and make it unassailable in the years to come, because we've got an opportunity to do that. And you just hope that the last week there, we broke our transfer record for Arne Engels, who was great to get him involved yesterday, I thought. But you know what, just to touch on Bernardo, actually, I thought if someone said to us he was your record signing £11 million player yesterday, you wouldn't have thought any different. I thought he was fantastic from right from the start. I think his aggression and winning the ball back, and Kev's right, he played a big part in some of our big games last season, whether it was against Rangers or in Europe. So he's obviously got that in him, but he's very technical. You've seen that for the chance he missed. His quick feet. He's done that a few times. There was a chance at St Mirren last season he had similar, where it was really good feet and then he skied it over. But I really like the look of Bernardo, and I know it's a small sample size since he's came back, but in these two games it looks like he's came back an improved player, with an improved maybe in confidence and realisation of the responsibility he's now going to carry in that team. And again, the competition, when you've got Arne Engels, you've got Luke McCowan, McGregor just epitomises everything that's so good about this Celtic side. He's phenomenal as a leader. I read about kind of when Luke McCowan came on. McGregor's the one that got his arm around him and just kind of probably eased his nerves and said, "Look, I'm here. You've got me here with you to support you." It's just a really exciting time to be a Celtic fan, and I think with Brendan at the helm, I can't see us slacking. I can only see us getting better and widening that gap between our rivals. But as we've spoke about so often, they are not our benchmark. I don't really care about them. I want to see us now push on in Europe. We've got a very favourable Champions League draw, but it's going to be difficult. But if we carry on the way we're at, I think this could be a really successful season compared to previous ones when it comes to Europe.
I hope so. I hope you're right. Kev, is it Dortmund you're going to and Villa? Away days?
I had a wee look at my holidays for my work. So if I'm going to any of them, I'm going to need to get really, really creative with what I can do with the amount of time that on Saturday night when I was out, I was talking to the guys who go up in the Paul McStay bus for St Ninians, and they're bussing it to Dortmund. Mm-hmm. And that sounded really good to me.
Old school.
That sounded really good to me when I was 5 pint in. I could do that. But when I woke up yesterday morning, I went, "There's no way I'm getting on a bus to going to Germany because, oh no!" But it sounded really good at the time. It did sound really good at the time.
How many away days in Europe have you gone to on a bus, Kev? Because did you not go to Sporting Lisbon on a bus?
No. The last one I went to on the bus was Rennes.
Right.
When Chaduri scored that complete and utterly bizarre own goal, and Joe Legley equalised for us.
Yep.
That was the last one. So what have I done on the bus? I've done
Neuchâtel Xamax. Were you the guy that went on the bus to Switzerland?
No, that was I was a bit young for that. What have I done? I've done Lyon, Bordeaux, Rennes, Paris, Amsterdam, Brussels, Lyon twice actually, on the bus twice. There's probably a couple more that I've actually forgotten. Anywhere in England, I've bussed it down as well. I've done. It's decent going to France and Holland and that, because the longest trip is from here down to Dover. Then once you're actually in there, you're only 3 or 4 hours to wherever you go. But it's great. I think my pal Brian says to me yesterday, he says, "I would love to go on the bus as long as I could fly home." He says, "Going on the bus is fine. Coming back's a nightmare."
It's the same with all these away trips. So the journey there is brilliant. Like for previous ones, you're getting planes, trains, automobiles. You're having find any way you can to get there. It takes forever, but you don't mind it because you're on the way. It's on the way back that it becomes a bit of a chore. But I've got my eye on Dortmund. We should get like a wee Acsom away days if there's a few of us going, but. I'm thinking of maybe going to Dusseldorf and then from there getting the train to Dortmund. So I'm hoping. I was hoping that on was it Saturday that everyone was too busy getting the Oasis tickets that no one would bother. But as soon as those fixtures came out, you're trying to get flights booked, and within a minute the prices shoot up. So I've held off just now. But me and a few mates are fancying Dortmund away, and I think that's we've got Slovan Bratislava as our first home game. Imagine we get 3 points there. The buzz that everyone's going to have going over to Dortmund, it should be some trip. But yeah, a lot to be excited about, and hopefully, Kev, if you're there, I'll see you there.
The Celtic Daz on my supporters club, they're flying to Dusseldorf for Dortmund, so they're flying into Dusseldorf, and it was quite strange. We were going to the game yesterday, and one of them's booking the digs for Dortmund on the bus on the way to the game yesterday.
Fantastic! You'll need to be doing your work on the bus. On the way to Dortmund. Cheryl, we've got the sign right there. There it is. If you go in that direction, you will come to Athenry. There we go. Thank you very much for that. Tony Cassidy, Chris Sutton offering Chris Boyd a hug. I've had enough of you. You stay away from me. What he did speak about, though, interestingly, was Aberdeen being the club that's fighting for second.
Must have been listening to somebody.
Must have been. I mean, what we were talking about a wee bit earlier than that in the pre-season, Acsom, was the fact that there are clubs in Scotland who underperform constantly, and it's almost normalised. And I'm talking about Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen and Dundee United. They're the four I always go back to, Kev. Maybe because my point of reference growing up, they four clubs did well or reasonably well. You've not got a challenge from the capital, and you haven't for a long time. And every time they do get a decent team together, it gets very quickly broken up and they bottle it, they Hibs it, right? And then you've got Aberdeen, who have been absolutely rotten. I mean, going back to Scales played in that Darvel game where they got knocked out, probably the worst result in Scottish football history. But what it shows you is if you get the decent manager in place, and that's the key, that's the root. You get the manager in place, and then your recruitment is absolutely key. They've maybe not done enough. They've probably not done enough, but they might be there or thereabouts in the January time, you know? And at that point, a couple of players, who knows what kind of free fall Rangers have been in between now and then. I genuinely think it's possible for a team outside of Glasgow to finish second this season.
On you go, Kev.
It's an early shout. It is a really early shout. And what I would probably say is I would fully expect Rangers to get better. Because they'll probably have a new manager bounce by round about the end of October, which and they're coming back again.
It's a poison chalice.
I think McInnes is probably next in the.
That loving cup is a poison chalice, isn't it? It really is. The minute you've drank out of that, you're going to fail.
And some of the Rangers fans might now be going, that's our level. McInnes is our level to actually try to get us close. And they might actually start believing that, but I didn't want to get in a guys who call themselves teddy bears' heads, because that might be a very, very fluffy, dark place. I just think they've got a bigger squad than anybody else. They've got a bigger squad than anybody else. And even though we're on here having some laugh at them, and Dessers is better than anybody else with us as a striker in that league. He is. They've got a decent. I mean, that winger they've got, that Cherny or whatever his name is. He was brutal yesterday, absolutely ranked rotten. But they've got a bigger squad. They will have better players, and you would expect them to take care of the other teams in the SPFL. And it depends on how long Aberdeen can actually hang in there. If you look at Aberdeen's run of fixtures, they have been quite favourable for them so far. So, but it'll be interesting to see if they do hang in there. I mean, it looks like Hearts are probably going to need to sack Naismith.
Oh, he's rotten. He's rotten. I've said before, Kev, Stephen Robinson's the man for Hearts, you know. And I think that Kilmarnock, let's go back. You mentioned McInnes, right? But when they appointed Stevie Clark, I think what it showed is if you get the manager right, Acsom, and the recruitment's right, and you get organised, even that you don't have the depth of the squad, you can do pretty well in this league. You will win most of your games because there are teams in this league who are a basket case. I mean, Hearts this season, Hibs over the last decade.
Well, you look at Hearts' squad. I think it's a really good squad. A decent manager there could do a really good job with them. They've even got, again, a favourable kind of Conference League draw, which, again, someone that's competent could potentially get that group of players out of the group phase. So I think the sooner they get rid of Naismith, the better for Hearts. But you're right. I think Aberdeen, you look at this manager, Jimmy Tillene, I think that's 9 wins in a row. He just looks like he's getting the best out of the players. They've recruited well. They've used the Miovski money well. I think James Nesbitt's Kevin Nesbitt.
Cold feet.
Kevin Nesbitt, who got the winner there at Ross County the weekend. Great signing for them. And you're right, they're kind of riding off that kind of feel-good factor at the moment. They're on a good run. But as Kev says, I think when injuries come or when they get a tougher run of fixtures, that'll be the true test. Can they go to the likes of away to Hearts and away to Dundee United, who are on form right now, and get the results there? But look, they're already 5 clear Rangers. And that's going to, as the way Rangers are playing right now, the mood of the club, you just think they're not going to get a lot better. They've got the squad that they've got. I don't think yesterday I was watching that back yesterday, and I don't think that was a really poor Rangers performance in the sense that they had an off day. I think that's their level. I just think that's how far behind they are, and I don't think we were by any means at our absolute best. I think we had spells in that first half where we were electric, but by and large we could still go up a few levels as well. But
then you get into the second half, Azim, then Beaton gets involved by breaking up the play at every single point.
Yep,
and
that's what Beaton
folk,
does,
folk
yep.
talk about big decisions. The way that these referees can influence games has been doing what he done in the second half yesterday, which is just breaking up the flow of the game. That's all he did, and that's all he tried to. And he kept on getting in the way as well.
You noticed that? That's bad refereeing. Yeah.
He had what's his name, Wally Collum about him. When Wally Collum at time was, I remember when Collum was at his peak, he used to mark Callum McGregor at the game. He just used to stand in front of him wherever he used to go. And that is really, really poor refereeing. But this is what they do.
Aye, I've thought this for years with Beaton, because it's not even your blatant, shocking decisions. Well, he's done those as well. But what he tends to do in these derby games is set the tone early on by I remember he used to let them away with loads of challenges, so it just became one of those games, where they can just do what they want and there's no bookings. And even yesterday, like you say, breaking up the flow. The offside one again, I think it's worth talking about, because I've not seen anything conclusive that makes me really think that's a clear offside. These angles that they show and the lines that they draw, a bit sketchy for me.
Well, I want to talk about that because
extra sketchy.
Well, we spoke about it last year. Before I do that, here we've got a message that is sparking a wee story in my mind by Pete McGee. I remember the bus journey back down to London when we gubbed them 4-0 in the Scottish Cup final in 1969. One of the goals was scored by High Valleyfield's George Conley. We were mooning their buses on the motorway, right? A wee story has come to mind, Pete, which I'm going to tell you, right? I was talking to ex-Celt, what was his name? Willie Gardner. You remember him? Early 80s, Willie Gardner. And
did he play for Aberdeen as well?
He did. He played with the great Aberdeen side under Fergie. And when he came to Celtic, he was struggling for game time, probably because he scored 2 own goals in his debut against St Mirren. Didn't help him. And he was in the reserves. So the reserve bus against Rangers would be playing either at Ibrox or Celtic Park. And then the first team would be playing at the other ground. That's the way it used to be. Johnny Doyle was also out of favour, right? And apparently Doyle used to wear a massive crucifix, like a huge, big, massive crucifix, right? He wouldn't take it off. And then in a game, what he would do is he would tape it to his chest so that it didn't swing about when he was playing, right? So he would tape the crucifix to his chest. And the Celtic reserve bus are on their way to whatever ground they were playing at for this game. And it starts going a bit slow, Kev, where the buses go a bit slow, and obviously there's a wee bit of to in and fro in between the Celtic and well, the Rangers supporters in this bus realised that it was the Celtic team, albeit the reserves, and you can imagine the chants and everything else getting thrown out the bus and all the rest of it to the Celtic team coach, to which Johnny Doyle lifted his top and gave him the big crucifix right to the window. Get it up you. So I'm pretty glad that the bus then sped off at that stage, Kev, and the Rangers bus was left in its wake.
That must have been an 80s thing, that mooning its opposition buses, because I haven't seen it in decades. But I remember Love Street 86, Rangers were playing at home that day. And I remember he gets stuck on that bit of the M8 when you're going to Paisley and they're going to Kinnan Park, and you're there, and I just remember a sea of bums. Like that, it just used to be the ultimate insult. I'm going to get my bum out here.
Aye, that must go back, I don't know, to some point where that was an insult, Kev. I mean, I'm now thinking there is a book in all these bus tales, Kev. There's a book in it. Interesting enough, Celtic do attract people from the arts. They always have done: music, film, literature, comedy, Kev. And we are trying to speak to some of these figures on This Is Acsom. If you've tuned in on Friday night, you'll know that we had Bernard Ponsonby. Great, brilliant contribution from yourself as well, Lassim. Go and check it out. It was a great show. We're going to have more political figures as well. But Celtic did pretty well themselves, because Christoph Waltz was in the crowd. He's in Glasgow at the moment filming a remake of Frankenstein, directed by Guillermo del Toro. What a director he is. He's responsible for Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, and The Devil's Backbone. I would like to give a big shout out to Shamey and Anthony for assisting me in getting Primal Scream to the game. So on Saturday night, I'm bouncing about hotels in Glasgow distributing tickets to one of my favourite bands of all time, a band, in actual fact, that Kevin has a tattoo of, Screamadelica, on his arm. Now, with that in mind, obviously we've set up the tagline, Celtic waltzed the Glasgow derby. He was famous for appearing in Inglorious Bastards. So I think that leads us on to the refs. And we knew that we knew that they would land their hands to Rangers, and they did.
Well done.
Did you like that, son?
Nah,
right,
well done.
There we go. There we go. Now, I'm going to go back to a live event we done last year, and we were talking to an ex-Celtic player, Peter Grant. Sorry to throw you under the bus, Peter the Pointer. But he was telling me that he's friends with someone who's down south working for a broadcaster, and he's responsible for doing the graphics. He's responsible for these graphics. And what he was telling us backstage is that they can widen the lines, they can shorten the lines, they can skew the lines, bend them, and all that kind of stuff. And he told us that, and he was quite open about it. And we were like, well, that does not surprise us. Now, if you look at that official graphic, I'll ask you first, Asim, that official graphic, when Kuhn is apparently offside, what you can see is that the blue line is actually, it comes down at a certain angle, and then it bevels. It bevels, and it starts going in on itself to make sure it's behind Kuhn. It's ridiculous. It really is. And when we were watching the game, Sean suggested that we've got other cameras in the stadium. I wasn't aware of this. Tactical cameras for probably our own video analysis, I'm guessing. And it occurred to me that when you're watching the big tournaments, the Euros and the Champions League, and we spoke about it, there's been a lot of goals cut off in our games over the last couple of seasons, goals chopped off. And the angle is perfect. You've got the 360, it turns into a computer graphic. You can go overhead and you can see, right, they're big toenails offside. This is just leaving far too much to the imagination, Asim. And when you see the graphic and the way the graphic's been skewed, people might think I'm being paranoid. I'm thinking it's been done manually. I think it's been done manually. The mistake's been made. We need to make the graphic fit the decision. Therefore, they've skewed it. That was onside. Goal was onside.
That's how it looks. That's how it looks, because you're right. I've seen the graphic that you're referring to, and you can see it. And I remember it was a couple of years ago. Was it maybe Jota at Fir Park as well? Remember they didn't even have the actual proper camera angles, so it doesn't surprise you that
one of the greatest goals we've ever scored.
That pass and move, 100%, and it was because they didn't have the right angles. So that doesn't surprise me. I only found out today, Paul John, when you mentioned that about the event last year. But it just leaves us open to these kind of decisions that can be made, and that was obviously at 0-0. So, look, I think it's actually better for us to talk about and highlight these things after a 3-0 victory, because that's the time. Because people otherwise will be like, oh, you're sour grapes if it's because it's cost us something. But no, these should be highlighted even when you're winning, and more importantly, probably when you're winning, to just show that it's a case of wanting the best decisions, wanting the best transparency as to how these decisions are coming about. Obviously, in Europe, they use the AI now, automated. That seems like the way to go, but it just looks like we're using such a cheap version of VAR, which is just going to leave us open to this kind of debate all season, really. And sadly, we're the ones that are usually on the wrong side of these decisions. Like, it's inconclusive. That's the thing. It's hard to see. But from the graphics that are being shown, I can't. For me, I've still not seen anything that makes me think that's offside.
Yeah, listen, we were brutal in the post-match analysis of it, Kev, and it's hard not to be, because when you see the graphic, you're just thinking it's simply not offside.
When you see the graphic, and even at the time, I'm going, I'm on 4-1-2, and even at the time, I'm going, he's onside there. No, there's a wider conversation that we need to have about the offside rule. The fact that if his elbow was offside, should that actually be the rule? Because it shouldn't be the rule, because it should be that your body, the majority of your body, should be in front of the last defender before you're actually offside. And we have got a cheap version of it, because the one they use in the Euros, it was automatic. It was there was some computer program. I know he is offside, and it was a auto decision, and it didn't go to a human decision. But even at the time, I was going, I don't think he was offside there. I think we just won the ball really well and sprung it really well. And I got one of the lads on my supporters bus went like that to me. I never saw the Sky footage. Did Sky actually show the lines?
Yeah, but it was way after the event. But it wasn't like there's the decision, there's the lines immediately.
Somebody says they were watching it through whatever means, and
CBS,
it was DAZN feed that they were watching, and they showed it right away, and the commentator went like that. Their level, that should have stood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the American commentator says. He says their level, that should have stood.
I think when someone doesn't have any skin in the game, Kev, and they're watching it from a sporting perspective of integrity, then anybody can look at that and say he was onside. And again, it's another one of the ones, the greatest goals that never were. I mean, we're going to have a showreel of these goals. And it's shocking because at that point, you're thinking to yourself, the whole dynamic of the game could change. But what Celtic actually did, I think we got a bit of a beaner on it, and we pushed on after that as well, I see.
From the minute that goal went in, the dynamic did change because I think for all they started the game on the front foot and were trying to be aggressive in their press. All it took was that bit of quality, where we beat the press, Callum McGregor's weight of pass, and look how easy it was to get in. And I think that just shifted everything. It made our players kind of have that added belief that, right, okay, we've got them here again. And it made them sit further off and really panic. And it just from that moment onwards until the end of the first half, we were scintillating to watch at times. The speed of our play when we broke the press. Nicholas Kuhn for me is another one that really excites me because if he carries this on, that he could be like that, not Jota replacement, but he makes me excited when he's got the ball. I'm now like, you're at the edge of the seat, what's he going to do? And his decision making's getting better. I thought he played a ball to Hatate, which was just perfectly weighted. Hatate should have scored that, but even for the disallowed goal, I thought at first, I'm like, play that across first time, but he knew what he was doing. Took the ball under control, made sure the pass was perfect for Kyogo. He looks so strong, he wins the ball back. He's got that kind of upper body strength now, and he really excites me. And then you've got Dyson Maeda on the other side. Not even had a chance to speak about him, but he's up there in the top 3 performers yesterday as well. He's got a knack for scoring in this game now. His work rate for even look at the third goal. It was him working back to get the ball. It was just a joy to watch that Celtic team yesterday at points, and that's me saying that even though we weren't at our best. But it's just knowing the intensity off the ball. It was almost off the ball watching us yesterday, and I'm like, this looks like a team that's hungry. This looks like a team that really is enjoying their football at the moment, and that's what gives me excitement going forward because you've got that, and then you've got our record signing. You've got Luke McCowan, you've got Adam Ida, you've got such a quality bench. You look at that bench yesterday for the first time in a year since maybe Andrew's second season, and you're like, okay, we've got quality in every position now, and it gives us a lot to be encouraged about.
Kev?
I think what was interesting yesterday, Azim, I thought we kind of stood off
and
allowed them to have the ball and says, you're going to give it back at one point, and when you give us that ball back, you're not going to handle us going forward. And for me, it was a very tactical decision by Celtic to go, we'll let you have the ball, we'll let you slow that ball, but as soon as you put that in the middle of the park, we're on you. And that's what. That's
you're right, because at first I think I was watching it and I'm like, why are we sitting off? It's not like how we've been playing the rest of the games. But as it transpired, and even just from the disallowed goal, you're like, that's why. Because it was almost like Brendan kind of tactically again done them. It's like, you have the ball, I don't worry about what you're going to do with it. And as soon as we went in that transition, we've got the speed and quality to just get right through past your defenders and in. So I think it was tactical, and then after that we pummeled them. But you're right, Kev, because I was watching that, and again, it's something you wonder if that's something Rodgers will use in some of the European games as well, where it'll be a case of, right, let you have it, but we're ready to pounce on the counter attack.
Yeah, we talked about this yesterday because they're banging on about having a great 10 minutes, if that's all you can muster kind of thing. But I do think that in the past, Rodgers' teams have allowed possession and all that kind of stuff for 20, 25 minutes in a game and just absolutely contained it. It's almost as if, listen, we're happy for you to have the ball because we can contain that and then we can hit you afterwards. And I don't know if it was deliberate, but it certainly worked out that way. Uncle Nobby's Steamboat says Wolf Tones are wanting to support Oasis at Croke Park. Well, I thought they had retired. That's the Wolf Tones, not Oasis. Tony Cassidy, the new movie called Damaged, directed by Terry McDonough, with Samuel L. Jackson, Vincent Cassell, Gianni Capaldi, Kate Dickey, a nice Celtic scene they're in. I know Gianni shared that. Maybe we should get him on for This Is Acsom. What do you think, Assie? Gianni Capaldi, he'd be a good guest.
Boy.
Let's ask the question. And being the bastard, Ponsonby was absolutely brilliant on Friday, by the way. Was a bit cynical about the Friday show, but it has been fantastic. Thank you. He was a gentleman, Assie. Brilliant, wasn't he?
He was. He's just got one of those personalities. You could listen to him all day. You know, he's got so much knowledge. Me and you were just sitting there and like, I thought you've got encyclopedic knowledge, but I think Bernard puts you even to shame there. His knowledge of all things Celtic, politics, obviously the industry itself, media, journalism, all that. And I'm kind of fascinated by all that because that's all the things I was into growing up, and when I was in school and going to university, it was a toss up between kind of journalism and stuff like that. So I was just like you always kind of mention, a sponge. You know, you're just there listening to everything, listening to his stories. Obviously had a few kind of funny stories of his altercations with Tommy. That was hilarious as well. And just he's just a big, massive, passionate Celtic fan, and it was great to hear that. And he doesn't sit far from us, actually, up in the North Stand upper. So next time, I might go over and have a wee catch up with him again. But yeah, he's a proper gentleman, and even when he was talking about his tributes to Tommy and Bertie Auld and Billy McNeil, and just the passion and how he just wanted to make sure his delivery when he was doing those tributes was bang on, and they really were. But yeah, all in all, a thoroughly enjoyable episode, and it was great to be in his company.
Yeah, it was great fun. I mean, he was saying, Kev, that he's had the same seat since we returned back to Celtic Park after Hampden. Have you had the same seat? Have you moved a bit?
No, I'm on my second seat. No, I moved down a bit to be. There's a load of your CSC on the same section, so I moved into that section to be with them, and it's easier if people are wanting tickets and stuff like that. That we've got quite a few season tickets on the same section. So I'm in 412 above the Green Brigade. And
right, what a link. Let's talk about the Green Brigade. Let's finish off with the Green Brigade, right?
I never got the script either.
No, that was brilliant. That was poetry in motion. I'm not being funny, right? They have taken pelters over the years, the Green Brigade. Not by us, by the way, on Acsom, certainly not. Banned from the stadium last season, Kev, and all this kind of stuff. And the effort and the cost and everything else that goes into the tifos and the atmosphere, let's be honest. I mean, you look at Waltz being at the game yesterday. Joe Hart knows what the Green Brigade do. Other people who manage to get a ticket, celebrity fans that come for the big game and it's a bucket list and all that stuff. They must look over at the Green Brigade and just think, wow, that is sensational. I'm not saying we take it for granted, but we know they're there and they're always there unless they're banned. But yesterday, the tifo, unbelievable, outstanding, one of the finest. Where do they go? Where do the big banners go after they've been used? Because then they get reused.
You've seen the Terry Christian show. What saint was it? Because you'll need to tell me, because I haven't got a clue what saint it was. Is it St Mungo?
What I'm going to do, right?
That's what I've read. I think that's
what I'm going to do, Kev. It's fine, mate. You're not even lapsed, are you? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw that out to the.
Never was one.
I'm going to throw that out to the
lapse anyway,
because within a second you'll get your answer. There you go.
St Mungo, aye.
Look at that, fantastic. But yeah,
what at half time was great as well.
Aye, it was, and this is the thing. I think that calling it the rest, even when we win, absolutely. Giving praise to the Green Brigade, what they do for charity, Kev, what they do for the atmosphere in the stadium, what they do in terms of standing up for the oppressed, even if they know they're going to be on the side of criticism from the mainstream media, the club themselves, sometimes even fellow fans. I think we'll look back on the Green Brigade. You'll look at them with a display in relation to the poppy. Because let's be honest, it was because of these displays, Kev, that we no longer wear it, because we did wear the poppy. We did. Like every other club in Britain, we wore that poppy until the Green Brigade stood up and said no. The Palestinian displays. And then the big game displays like yesterday. I mean, they should be celebrated.
It should be, but I'm in 412 and I'm underneath that banner. I'm underneath it. One thing I will say, they need to bin the Davy Cooper song right away. That's 2 home games in a row they've sung the Davy Cooper song. And that just needs, for all the good things that they do, that just makes we can't take the moral high ground when the Rangers fans sing about Tommy Burns and stuff like that, and the Lisbon Lions. When that song is now keeping into the repertoire, sorry, it's got no place at Celtic Park. Getting back to the banner. So I'm underneath it, and there's this boy in front of me going absolutely mental that he can't see the teams coming out. Absolutely. He's shouting at the guys that are hanging in the banners up, and he's spitting in the guy's face saying, I want to see the teams coming out. Get this banner. And I'm going, mate, you're in your 60s. How many times have you seen the teams coming out? I was like, and that just shows you, like, even though we can, there's loads of us love them, love what they do. There's wee things like that hat them every time that they do a display, especially when the banner ends up coming up the top tier. And I was like that. I've gone, I wonder what this actually says, because I can't see what it is. Like, and
even though Acsom, Kevin was one of the guys holding up the Scotland shame banner, the famous Scotland shame banner. Kev was there. He was holding it up.
I did not know what was written on it until it was hung over.
Yeah.
I did not have a clue what was written on that banner until it was run over. But again, that was a fantastic display. And it makes me feel part of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll be at the next home game, I'll see the teams coming out. I didn't need to see the teams coming out. I'd rather be part of something that's going to be photoed and shared millions and millions of times than see the teams coming to see the teams running out onto the park.
So they're going to find somebody who will complete that person could win the lottery and moan about the denomination of the notes. You know what I mean? They'll find something to moan about. Stevie boy, God bless the Green Brigade. And Monty.
I was just going to say, I just to reiterate what Kev said, look, yep. I think they do a lot of good. That song, it needs to go. I'm the same as you, Kev. I don't think we've got so many great Celtic songs out there to sing. You know, I just don't think we need to stoop to that level talking about anyone's that's passed on. It makes us no better than the scum that do it on their side. You know, and I don't think we should ever stoop to that level. So ideally, yeah, I agree as well. That needs to go. I don't like it when I'm there hearing it, and it's not just that's not just limited to the Green Brigade. That can be anyone that sings those songs. But on the whole, you're right, Paul John. They need to be celebrated. The Green Brigade, they make such a difference to your match day going experience. As you say, the tifos they've done throughout the years, up there with the best in Europe. The atmosphere they bring, the stuff they do away from the pitch, the food, you know, the food bags, all the charitable stuff they do, the things that they stand up for. For me, a fundamental part of Celtic and the Celtic crowd. Not everyone agrees with everything they do, but I think by and large you've seen that last season when they weren't there. Celtic Park wasn't a fun place to be. You add that into the fact that we were not playing very well at points, but they make such a difference. So there's a lot to be celebrated about. And yesterday, the tifo was another example of that. And the atmosphere itself, it was, you know, obviously we all want the away fans back at these fixtures because it would make it even more enjoyable to see them suffer on games like this. But for what it's worth, a thoroughly enjoyable day yesterday.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Absolutely tremendous contribution from everybody in the comment section as well. I've thoroughly enjoyed that. 1700 as we sit here right now, Kevin. I'm going to have to switch it all off. So thanks every single one of you for getting involved. If you want to come and be part of an Acsom night, we've got Gordon Strachan and John Hartson on a stage in Glasgow in a couple of months. There are still tickets available, but it will sell out. We can tell looking at the trajectory of the sales there. Come along. We're trying to keep them as cheap as possible, unlike the reformed Oasis. We're trying to keep them as affordable as we possibly can. Come along. They're always great nights, Acsom, aren't they? The Acsom nights at Bad, always great nights. So come along.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
And by the way, another big shout out to Jerry Taylor. He is not on the show today because he's practicing. Is that what you call it? He's rehearsing for his big show. Rehearsing for Blame It on the Bucky. And what I've done is I've stuck the ticket link for Jerry underneath the video as well. Hopefully we can support him. He's got a night at Gracie's coming up this month. Thank you, every one of you, for getting involved. And join us again tomorrow at 12:30 for a Celtic State of Mind.